You know, once in a while you talk about barn burners. Well, this was going to be a barn burner trade, but it ended up not falling through. You see, yesterday we already made one video talking about the Jacob Markstrom and New Jersey Devils trade update. We had gone over how there were conversations about Markstrom getting traded to New Jersey and how it almost happened and how salary was the reason it didn't go through. That video is up from yesterday. You could go ahead and watch it if you wanted to see the update. But this new article from James Nichols on New Jersey Hockey Now goes out there and explains even further the extent as to how much this deal had progressed. Take a look at this article here. Report: Jacob Markstrom waived his no-move clause to join the Devils before a deal fell through. Now, this article is coming to us, of course, one night after yesterday's barn burner of a game between Calgary and New York. We talk about a barn burner trade. This was a barn burner game. Even though Jacob Markstrom lost this game, he had himself a .967 save percentage. Meanwhile, Igor Shesterkin got the shutout, 30 saves on the night. It was a goaltending battle through and through, and Marky made some fantastic stops. So if there's any game that New Jersey Devils fans may have been paying attention to, trying to scout, see what their guys could be looking like if they got a guy like Marky, yesterday's game might have been the biggest one when it comes to longing. But still, let's go back over onto the article and read the details as published by Nichols on New Jersey Hockey Now. It's been well reported that New Jersey Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald was going to remain aggressive to upgrade his team ahead of the trade deadline. On Saturday, we learned that the Devils and Flames were engaged in a serious trade discussion for Markstrom. However, the deal fell through and Markstrom remains with Calgary. According to a report, the Swedish goaltender was willing to join New Jersey before the trade was halted. Now, what does that mean? Well, Frank Seravalli, he reports that the Flames did indeed ask Markstrom if he would be willing to waive his no-move clause for an intended deal. Here's the quote. "I think the Devils and Flames were pretty far down the track on a Markstrom trade," Seravalli explained on Daily Faceoff's Morning Cup of Hockey. "I think it did get to his level to approve it. There were no issues there. Somehow, along the way, the trade was scuttled. Don't know how and don't know why, but they were pretty close to nailing it down. You would have seen Jacob Markstrom become a New Jersey Devil, I think, at some point last week." Now, Seravalli doesn't have the info that we had talked about yesterday, but according to some other insiders, the apparent deal breaker in this deal was salary. How the New Jersey Devils would not have wanted to carry Jacob Markstrom and his contract, which is not cheap, $6 million a year till the end of 2025-2026. For a guy who's 34 years old, they wanted to get that with salary retained. The Flames were not willing to retain because, I mean, look, the contract goes till 2026. It's for a while after this season. That seems to have been the straw that broke the camel's back at this point, and it could potentially be the only reason why Jacob Markstrom is not a New Jersey Devil today, making these saves and having these great performances as a member of the Devils, finally giving that team solace in goaltending because they've needed it the entire season. So, for Marky Mark, it's very interesting to see that he already approved and he may have already waived his no trade, but the ultimate outcome is, hey, sorry, buddy, you're still here. Like, we couldn't get it done because we don't want to retain your money. Your contract sucks, sorry to say. But the article gets even crazier when you read further and see what other conversations may have happened. Take a look at this. Yesterday, Elliot Friedman reported that although the deal died, the Devils and Flames were in agreement on a package that worked for both teams. The Devils were reportedly ready to at least make Swedish sniper Alexander Holtz as part of the transaction. Oh boy. We're not talking about Alexander Holtz now, aren't we? Now, just in case you need the update and are a Flames fan that wants to know what this prospect would have been about, Alexander Holtz was one of the top goal-scoring prospects in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft. Taken 7th overall by the New Jersey Devils, he is a 22-year-old, 6 feet, 194 right-handed sniper. He is on his ELC that goes on till 2024-2025, and this season he's got 12 goals and 11 assists for 23 points in 51 games played. On pace for about 19 goals and 37 points, which is fairly in line with the point production that we thought he would be able to achieve. Last year with the Utica Comets in the AHL, he was a point-per-game guy, and 2 years ago, he was also a point-per-game guy. 51 points, 52 games played as a 20-year-old in the AHL. Alexander Holtz, his entire career, has been a goal-scoring sniper, and this was made very apparent back in the draft days of 2020, which is why he was taken so high in the first place. He was under a point per game at the World Juniors that year as an underager, and he had 7 goals in 3 games in the Junior League in Sweden. He's always been a very capable, very competent goal scorer, and for a guy that was drafted in the 7th overall spot, you could very well say that there was a plan in place in New Jersey to have this guy as the triggerman for Jack Hughes long term. You got Hughes in 2019 1st overall, you got Holtz in 2020 7th overall. These two were supposed to be a duo together, and that was kind of the plan that Devils fans had envisioned for this team back in that time frame. Now, for Alexander Holtz, he's still good, but he's not that top guy just yet, and you could very well debate that if the Devils are trying to go all in this season, it would probably be more useful for them to have Holtz's value allocated to goaltending. Like, of course, you're not putting Holtz himself in net, but you're saying the value that Holtz has as a young goal scorer who's got boatloads of potential into the future, why not take that value and use it to get a goaltender who could help you today? That seems to be the philosophy here, and for the Calgary Flames, I mean, you just got Hunter Brustevich from the Vancouver Canucks, you just got Igor Sharangovich from the Tyler Toffoli trade. If you get Alexander Holtz too, this is going to be a pretty smart rebuild, retool on the fly type of thing. The Calgary Flames and Craig Conroy, man, wheeling and dealing, getting these younger assets. Of course, the deal didn't go through, but still, that is a barn burner of a trade. Just the amount of value going either way. The goaltending significance of Jacob Markstrom, the young prosperity and goal-scoring capabilities, especially into the long term, in Alexander Holtz. This is what Frank Saravalli goes out there and talks about at the end of this article here. Can this be revisited? Saravalli contemplated. My answer is probably not, based on the way it played out. And 2, now what? Is there another team that would be willing to step up and pay what would be a pretty significant price in order for Calgary to reshape their goaltending scenario? It sounds like the Devils will have to figure out a plan B, although the two sides were really close. Perhaps it's not as dead as we think. So, article will be linked in the description by James Nichols here. It's a very good piece. There's a lot more in the piece that we didn't talk about that is still valuable to go out there and acknowledge, but at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to focus on the most. How a Jacob Markstrom for Alexander Holtz trade was so close to happening, but due to the dollars and due to the disagreement with salary, hey, it didn't get done. Even though Markey himself was already willing to go to New Jersey. Just imagine that, eh? For Devils fans, my biggest question to you is, how big of a deal really is the salary cap here? How big of a deal really is Markstrom and his $6 million AAV? Do you think that it's so detrimental that you should have been able to stop a trade like this? Or would you have not wanted to make a trade like this happen because you wanted to keep Holtz instead? What do you value more? The short-term prosperity of a Markey Mark, or Alexander Holtz and his goal-scoring prowess into the long-term future? We still do believe that Holtz has what it takes to become one of the top goal scorers in this league, a consistent 30-goal guy. That seems to be the general consensus, I feel, exists amongst this fan base. I mean, the guy's on pace for 20 goals this year. He's only 22 years old. So there still is value in Holtz, but is that enough to supersede what would be the need for goaltending in the short term? Thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you're a Calgary Flames fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of your team not willing to retain any salary for Jacob Markstrom? Is that really that big of a deal? Do you think that Craig Conroy has some sort of a master plan here? Because we had seen similar negotiations happen with Chris Tanev and Nikita Zadorov, how they didn't make that trade to Toronto because the Toronto Maple Leafs wanted Calgary to hold on to salary. Do you think this is going to bite the Flames in the behind, their willingness, or unwillingness, to retain any money? And do you think it's what needs to get done in order to make a Markstrom trade happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.